Hello, welcome everybody. It's certainly been a long time since I've posted anything on this channel, so I'm excited to get it back up and running again. Of course, life and work always seem to get in the way, but things have kind of settled down for me, so I'm hoping to be able to contribute more regularly. And of course, with all the COVID-19 things happening, it seemed like the opportune time since I have plenty of time on my hands. To that end, I joined the Lichess4545 League, which is a league where you play long time control games, one a week. You are grouped with a team. They also have what they call Lone Wolf, where you can just play by yourself, but I chose the one to be grouped with a team. And once a week you play a game that 45 minutes on the clock with a 45-second increment. And it's a good way to play some longer time control games without having to go and travel all over to tournaments, which A, is not even possible right now, but B, gives a good opportunity for, long time control and analyzing and things. So this is my first game from that season, and I hope to analyze and post all the games that I'm going to play up here on the channel. So as a reminder, the way that I recommend to analyze games and the way that I analyzed this game was first to go over the moves yourself, or maybe with your opponent if that's something that your opponent wants to do. So I played over this game again by myself and made some annotations. Then the second thing I did was I looked through my chess books to see if I had any books that might be relevant, that might help me. So I can compare to those resources I have on hand. And then the third thing I did was to go over it with the computer to see what things that I may have missed. So I'm not going to parse out which analysis came from where for you. For this particular game, I did get a lot of the analysis correct the first time and with the book, but that's certainly not always true. So it's a good idea to always do all three of those things so you can kind of locate where your gaps in knowledge are, right? So with all that being said, let's get started. So this game here, I played the Reti, which is the first time I've really started playing this opening seriously, but I've been studying it a little bit on Chessable. If anybody knows Chessable, I like that website a lot for learning and practicing different openings. And I've been playing it in Blitz games and stuff recently, and I've been enjoying it. So I did know who my opponent was about a week or so beforehand. So you get your pairing on a Monday, and you have a week to play the game. And my opponent and I, we decided to play this game on Sunday. So there was a decent chunk of time where we knew who our opponents were, but we hadn't played the game yet. So I did do a little preparation. I did kind of look at what I thought my opponent might play to this opening, but especially at this level, doing an insane amount of opening prep is not ever really going to pay off because you're going to be out of book so quickly that it's a lot of wasted effort. I think you're a lot better off doing tactics, training, and doing other things, playing some other games and things like that, because you're going to get out of book so quickly. And that actually happened to me in this game. So I thought my opponent was going to play d5, actually, based on the few games that I had seen that they had played against Nf3, or maybe c5, g6, something like this. And that did not happen. We got out of book very quickly. So knight f6, certainly, fine. c4, c5. Now we're really on a really different path. That's like almost we've played a symmetrical English opening, and we've played these knights before having played these knights out. So the game is going to take kind of a winding path through, different opening systems and ideas, and that's why it's not very helpful to be booked up, because I had looked at a few lines, but again, this is not something that I had really looked at specifically, but it is very familiar. Of course, it's very similar to a lot of other openings that I have played and I have seen before. So you just have to forge ahead and do the best that you can here. G3, just trying to get my bishop on the long diagonal there. E6, so aiming towards the center, and already it seems like I'm going to have to kind of attack the center sideways, right? And I can't really defend here on d5, which is fine, of course, and is the concession you make when you are immediately playing this. You're kind of giving your opponent time to come into the center here. So bishop e7, or bishop g2, sorry, bishop e7. This is fine here, but already I think my opponent should be looking for this d5 break. So here I think take d4, something like this, and this is a line that the computer recommends a move later from now. So we'll see that. Bishop e7, castle, get out of the way, castle, b3. The Reti really wants you to get your bishop over here on this long diagonal as well in a lot of lines. So I'm just kind of going for that, as I know kind of some of the ideas behind it. This was really surprising to me. d6. It really seems like my opponent is, limiting their space here. And I think what they're doing is they're kind of thinking about and going for kind of a hedgehog kind of structure, which is a response to the English, where you kind of really like hunker down. But in that situation, really, this bishop is here, this knight is here almost, and the queen goes to c7 or d7 here. And you want to, accomplish that pretty early because now if you play something like b6, I potentially have discoveries on the rook with my bishop. So it seems like my opponent has taken a bit of an odd path, and it might hurt them a little bit. I think really here you want to play d5. So, there's a lot of options here. I think probably I would have gone in for something like this. Take, d4, and now my opponent's bishop is not trapped anymore. Just kind of developing like normal. Take, because you've got some potential threats here. Take, develop, something like this. And this is obviously, I think, fine for both black and white. You're kind of getting into more of a maneuvering middle game here, but I think certainly black is going to be much more comfortable in this position than they are in the position we end up in. It's also possible maybe I could have thought about playing bishop here, kind of allowing this to go kind of for almost a Benoni kind of reverse Benoni kind of setup. This is a line that I had looked at a little bit, not this specific line, but kind of allowing d4 and playing with e3. But usually in those lines, you've played b4 earlier, and the queen can come over here to b3 now. So I don't think I would have gone in for it because of that difference. But my opponent decides to go for d6. So I'm just going to keep developing here. I've got a great diagonal for that dark square bishop now. Both of my bishops are in very happy places. Now I really feel like I need to play d4. I need to not allow myself to get too cramped here. And this breaks open the center a little bit and is really going to help me clarify and understand the position and understand what's going on. What do I need to do here? So take, knight takes, queen, just developing. Trying to prevent either of these knights from coming over here to b5. Rook c1. So now with this move, there is really a thematic move for white in this position that black has allowed. So I'll give you a second if you want to try to find it. So it really leaves knight d5 in the air, and I was already looking at, because you're going to have this pin here on the queen, right? I was kind of already looking at playing it right here in this position, but I missed a crucial factor. I thought that in the end, you are going to need the queen to be covering on d5 because black's going to retake, and I'll show you that in a second. But that's not true. You can play it right now because the bishop is on it. So if we were to play knight d5 right now, the idea is, right, you're attacking the queen, you're attacking the bishop. It's very good for black if you can get this dark squared bishop off here, because then you've got so much pressure that's hard to contest with your bishop. So black really can't allow you to take it. Pawn takes, and now you've got a pin on the queen to recapture back. and you've got just a nice position, and it's going to work out well for you. Black is going to be a little broken up here, and you can't play here because, again, the bishop is on here. So this is what I missed first. I thought you were going to have the queen. I thought you were going to have the queen to be able to capture here, but that's not true. You can play it even now. So I don't play it. I end up playing knight f3 to free the queen back up to d5 here. So certainly a little bit of a I don't know, an inaccuracy or mistake, however you want to categorize it, from me, because I could have already played knight d5 here. That being said, if we look at this knight d5 line, one of the reasons that black can't just retreat, let's say here, knight d5, black can't just retreat this queen because, you know, of something like this. And the bishop is hanging here. So you'd have to play the queen back here maybe, and, you know, maybe now you just take it anyway. But you kind of, I think, would rather have your queen over here, except that it leaves this hanging. So with rook fe8, black is now covering this bishop in case this knight goes away at any point. So that's why I didn't play knight d5 now, is because now I play queen d2. If you play knight d5 now, one option that black has is to play, you know, maybe like this and retreat, take, and now black solved a lot of their problems. Their bishop looks really nice and friendly. They've got good control in the center here, and I've got this nice bishop, and that's, you know, that's a little bit, if these bishops get swapped off, I'm much less comfortable than black because I've got these holes over here. So I was a little worried about being able to retreat the queen now. So I didn't play it just yet. I'm kind of just waiting to see if I can find the right time for it. Queen d2, rook a d8. Bringing this rook over, kind of wondering now, you know, if there's some point where this pawn is going to be exposed and weak. But probably, again, at either of those 2 points, I could have played knight d5 again, and it would have been fine for white. But I'm just kind of waiting and seeing it. It was hard for me in the game to find good, accurate moves for black. So I was just kind of waiting and seeing if I could find the right spot to play it. And now it seems like this is the time. Now that this bishop has retreated here, it can't ever get to c6. It can't ever get on this nice diagonal by recapturing the knight. So it really seems like now's the perfect time to play it for white. So I jump in for it for sure. It's been hanging there for a long time, right? So you pretty much have to take queen b8, something like this maybe, and you're really feeling the fact that you don't have a dark squared bishop over here anymore, helping your king out. So you really have to kind of accept what white's offering here. Take, knight e4. Now this is an interesting move because I had looked at this when I was calculating and thinking about knight d5, and at the time I had thought that just queen f4 was fine and still left black with problems to solve. But then over the board, I suddenly got worried about knight takes f2. So let's say knight takes f2, king takes, queen check, and then if you play something like you know, almost anything else here, king back or something like this, maybe this can go here now, or even over here to threaten this, and it just seemed a little tricky to me. Actually, I think the right response for white is just e3 here. e3, the knight moves. Maybe there's a better place for this knight, but I think if you're going to try to reroute it back over to the king side through d7, that's not a bad idea. But white is just really fast here. Everything comes comes over together at the king side against black, and this is a really interesting. You have to take here because you can't play h here. H5 here fails to this pretty checkmate. So you kind of have to play bishop takes, queen takes, and black is still in a little. It's not very comfortable of a position for black here. So I think e3 and white's fine, but I was worried about knight takes f2, so I ended up playing queen e3, which I think is still okay. Is just a little less inaccurate here from white. This is the first time that I think my opponent got a little. I'm not sure if they didn't realize, if they thought they were going to be able to get out of the knight pinning the queen or something, and they were going to end up. I'm not sure if they knew they were sacrificing a piece here or what, because this does not seem like a very strong sacrifice. There's not a lot of compensation that you're going to get, right? My king's safety is not going to be that damaged or anything like that. So I think really just, bishop like here or something, and you could play like this maybe. But even here, I'm okay as white because again I've lost a little bit of pressure here with my dark square bishop being gone. But the fact that black doesn't have one really hurts them being able to defend over here, and I'll feel like I can kind of get things moving a little bit. So I just after knight takes, just capture. Then you want to trade bishops, and again that's kind of fine with me. Long term, I'm going to be happy here, especially now that my opponent has sacrificed a piece, because as we start to trade down, that's only going to make my job easier, right? So they get a pawn back, but just quickly able to push the queen away, keep it from infiltrating in to my position. Had I traded queens here, I think it would have been okay, but I feel like I can clamp things down a little bit and press ahead before I get to that spot. Especially with both set of rooks on, trading queens might have been just a little trickier. Queen b5. Okay, there's a nice forcing line here that helps white simplify a lot and move towards an advantageous endgame. So I'll give you another second, see if you can find the forcing line here that you would play. Okay, so you could of course play just like pawn takes pawn, and then maybe like rook to c7 or something like this. But again, that gives black a good piece. This bishop is going to be on this square, and it's going to be a good piece. So instead, c7. There's only one place for this rook to go, so it's easy to analyze. And then bishop h3 to to attack through here, kind of skewer the rook. Now again, you might not be winning a piece in this line because this bishop is covered, but by trading down, you make the job a lot easier on yourself as white, because you're just trying to convert at this point. You're up a piece. You're up a piece for 2 pawns. So you're just trying to do whatever you can to convert here. So black takes another opportunity to seemingly sacrifice a piece to just try to stir up some complications. I think maybe something like this here, and then you can't really take this pawn is the thing, because you've got problems on your back rank. So you might need to play something like this, and then this is coming. So actually maybe what black went in for was fine, because we've clearly missed a move somewhere here. I guess you have to retreat, right? Like this. But again, now, I don't know, it's hard to find good play for black. White's king is pretty safe, and I'll start to be able to activate this knight, maybe get it on a good post somewhere, go after this pawn probably over here. But there's some chances here for black. Instead, black sacrifices another piece. Now again, at this point in the game, we come to another spot where I have kind of two choices to make between a safer route with bishop takes bishop and what looks probably objectively better, rook takes rook. My only issue with rook takes rook was that I was worried that it was, a little bit risky, a little bit sharper for black. It gave black some more chances. So after rook takes c7, bishop takes h3, of course, and the queen, the back rank, you're looking at some problems over here. Now, I think you just play queen c1 in the analysis. I found this move. And you're really stopping a lot of lines here. You might, you've got pressure on black's back rank. If this bishop moves off this diagonal, you're going to be able to play the king over and kick it away. And you're not really ever worried about black coming in to your position. So this is, had I thought about queen c1, what I would have played. But instead I just said, bishop takes c8. This line leads to a fine winning position for white that I knew I'd be able to convert. I felt pretty comfortable in my endgames. And so I said, okay, we'll take the slightly safer line and just make sure that we can convert here. So rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, and now rook takes pawn. So here there's going to be a lot of opportunities for white to trade off the queens. You can see that this position is like materially equal to the one we looked at earlier when the queen comes back here. But this rook is a little bit better placed. There's nothing on black's back rank here, so black has immediately to worry about back rank problems. And there's going to be a lot of chances to kind of trade the queens off, which I'd be happy to do at this point now that black is only down to a rook. So black plays h6. You've got to play either h6 or f6 here. F6 I think is just a little too weird. I might not trade queens off if f6 comes because the king is going to be more, kind of more open. So h6, check, check. Okay, so I'm eyeing d3 here to fork the queen and the king to swap off queens. Black says no. Black kind of goes for a little, again, kind of like a back rank trick. They're trying to somehow, come down here. If I play a move like maybe like here, here, and then I decide to do something a little tricky, maybe I decide to do something like this. Now they've got rook, and I can't play here because of this mate. So I've got to kind of like maybe give up the queen. So they're looking for some last minute tricks here. So instead I just move the king up, defend this knight, get rid of any checks on the back rank so they don't come with tempo, and look to find another way. Something I'm already thinking about is if I check here, black either has to give up the queens or plays g6, in which case I can play here, and now black has some back rank problems again to worry about. So I'm kind of eyeing that a little bit. So black kind of gives up on that idea, goes back, but now again, I've got this idea with queen d3, queen d4, and this time queen d4 is going to come with a mating threat and an attack on the queen. So now I know I'm going to be able to get the queens off, which is nice. Oh my goodness. Here we go. So queen d3 check, g6, queen d4, queen takes, rook takes, king g7, and just protects for a minute. This rank lets me kind of reorganize, and now I'm feeling really comfortable. I kind of know I'm going to win this game as long as I keep sharp and I keep my wits about me and I don't let any last minute tricks come up. But now that the queens are up off the board, there's far fewer tricks that are even possible. Knight f6, knight d4. You have to kind of make sure before you play this move that you have a plan because this is coming. So you just have to make sure that you can see it. So I made sure that I could get my king here by the time that black is going to be able to move both the rook to pin the knight and move the king over. So I checked for that. And then there's a nice, actually, little tactic here that's going to finish the game if black decides to go in for that anyway. So they go for the pin. I play here, kind of hoping that they're going to play knight e5, because, of course, knight e5 comes with a check from the knight that discovers an attack on the rook. So when I initially was looking at this, I said to myself, okay, well, we're going to be able to trade off the rooks here, and then white's job is really just kind of a technical task. But it comes with an even nicer little tactic to finish the game. So I'll see if you can give yourself a minute here, see if you can see what happens after knight c6 check, because there's a nice little finish that really seals it and pushes the edge over for white. So if you spotted it, the nice little finish here as we go, knight c6 check. The king now has to move to e6 to keep, to be able to swap off the rooks, right? If you take on c6, you're just admitting that the game is over. You just might as well resign if you're going to play that move, right? So you have to play king e6 here to protect the rook, but that move comes with the opportunity for another check. We check the king, we fork the pawns. We're still going to trade off the rooks because that's super helpful, but now it comes with another free pawn. And I decided to take the one on the king side over here to get rid of the 3-2 advantage over here. It threatens this pawn, so this game might have continued something like this. Just cement that knight in there. And I don't even, just start moving these pawns or something. But my opponent decided after knight takes f7 to resign. So I think really the big keys in this game were my opponent really needed to play d5 here to open the position up, or they had to go in for this for like a real hedgehog a lot earlier than this, probably after g3, play b6 here, and then here you can go in for this hedgehog if that's what you want to play these now later, now that you've got this bishop up. So those were the missed opportunities for my opponent. On my end, I could have played knight d5 a lot sooner. I saw it, and I could have played a little bit more accurately after that to defend or take advantage of some other things my opponent had done, like taking that rook, or not playing queen e3, playing queen f4 instead. But overall, I was really happy with how I played this game. I always knew that this key move, knight d5, was coming, was in the air, so I kept looking for it. I found a good time to make it work, and just from that moment kind of stayed on target and converted the game to win. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'm definitely going to be analyzing and posting more games. I'm playing a game a week, so hopefully we'll look for at least a video a week of analysis. And at some point, perhaps over the summer, I might return to playing community games and analyzing those with you, or even maybe streaming some Blitz, because I love to play some Blitz. So that's all for me. I hope you all are having a great weekend and you are staying safe and sane during the time of COVID-19, and we'll see you next week.